some feedback on assignment 1, guys, and apologies for the lighting, but perhaps that's good for me. The assignment was handled really well by the group, and there's some clear indication of that. We have an average mark of up around 34 and a half out of 50, so that's a good average to have for the cohort. It suggests that you handled this well. Marks ranged from a couple of failing submissions right up to the highest performing submissions, which were around the distinction and higher distinction grade banding. So we're looking at marks around 42, 43 out of 50 there. So particular congratulations go to Michelle Allen, Adam Seos, Julie Clifford, Jane Halson, Sophia Silvestri, Sarah Treweek, Chow Yoi and Kwok Hui for really outstanding submissions. These were submissions that were articulate, well structured, thoroughly researched, and just really impressive work, guys. So thanks for those. What hit me though most strongly from the cohort as a whole was just the enthusiasm with which you threw yourself into this task. Most of the submissions were really bubbling, bursting with ideas. But let's have a chat about what made for outstanding submissions. The answer to that really is that it was depth of understanding. We did significant work in the run-up to the assignment deadline. We scaffolded the conceptual stuff with examples, such as the readings that we had a look at in week 2. So the Information Society concept had some meat on its theoretical bones, so to speak, and we explored that idea in an Australian context. We'd look at the decline of manufacturing as an illustration of the rise of service industry, so shifting economic patterns there, the potential of a creative economy. So you guys needed to extend that, and I think we gave you some tools to do that. You had raw materials. You had the raw materials. You had a theoretical structure from Bawden and Robinson. You had some context, some examples, some raw data to tap into from the Australian Bureau of Statistics and the International Telecommunications Union, so you could see how Australia was ranking against other nations in their scale of Information Society measures. So there was some good raw material there. So you were in a good position to formulate a response, to formulate your own position in response to the essay question. And those that did well used those raw materials, but there were generic elements, attributes to their submissions that really made them shine. So they provided a structure to their argument, a clear, coherent structure. They were articulate in terms of articulating an individual perspective. So I could see that you'd formulated your own position, and that you'd done the work, you'd done the research to formulate your own position, and you were able to express that position clearly. So those that moved up the marking scale demonstrated that wider reading and research that extended the work that we'd done early in the session, and they used these sources to support their argument with relevant theoretical perspectives and with data, with real hard empirical evidence. And this was an important point because those that did well found that evidence. They had an evidence base for their argument, for the position that they were taking. They weren't simply offering an opinion. They had some solid grounding to the perspective and argument that they developed. And they'd done that by researching the topic and formulating their position from the evidence. And that evidence was clear. That was really came across in the essays, and some of the submissions had done really outstanding work in identifying relevant data and arguments to support their position. And this brings us to the other really important point that stood out for me in terms of an overview of your submissions for this assignment, and it's an important one. And it's about how you use online sources. So you Google the information landscape around a topic. You gain a perspective from that information landscape, but it's really important that you keep your information literacy hat on while you're doing that. So if you're referring to government policy or to government departments or government ministries, you need to be conscious, be aware that this is an environment, this is a context that changes regularly. So government portfolios, government ministries come and go. So, for example, the Department for Broadband Communications and the Digital Economy. Now that was instigated by Kevin Rudd in his initial term as Prime Minister. And it existed through the Rudd terms, through Gillard and then Rudd again. But under the Abbott government, that department doesn't exist anymore. What we have now is a Department for Communications with Malcolm Turnbull as Minister. We've also had significant shifts around the policy on the national broadband network from fibre to the home, so high-speed broadband to individual houses all across Australia, to fibre to the node, so high-speed broadband to access points within communities that you might then buy into. Which, by the way, offers a real niche market for libraries in terms of becoming community hubs for high-speed broadband. So this illustrates why this changing policy landscape might be important in terms of how you adjust to that landscape, how you formulate your own strategic direction. Okay, so back to the assignments. The important point is that you cross-check your materials so that you're not drawing on policy that's out of date, you're not referring to government departments that don't exist anymore. Okay, so I can see you've really thrown yourselves into these submissions with enthusiasm. What I'd like to see you working on for assignment 2, and all the work you've done here will count towards assignment 2. It really frames the work that you're going to be doing in assignment 2. But be like a journalist, cross-check your sources, ensure that what you're referring to is accurate and current. And this is so important for you guys because you're going to be the information experts of the future. You're going to be guiding people, user communities on digital literacy. So I need you to be demonstrating that skill. Okay, so we're going to work on that for assignment 2. Agreed? Yes. Okay. So overall, great effort, great enthusiasm, some really good submissions across the board, and the work you've done here will pay off in assignment 2 because you've provided a framework, a scaffold for the context that we're going to look at in terms of professional practice, and that's what we're going to be exploring in assignment 2.